Hi everyone, my name is Emily and I'm the Young Adult Librarian at the Rock Island Public Library, and today I'm here to tell you about a book that is called The Boy in the Black Suit. So this book is by Jason Reynolds, and this is probably my favorite Jason Reynolds book. He's written a lot of great books, but just this one, I don't know, I identified with. It's about a kid named Matt, and the thing that Matt is dealing with at the start of this book, it's a new school year, and Matt is starting school late, starting a couple weeks late, because over the summer his mom died of cancer. So he's still really just trying to figure out, what his life looks like now without his mom. And Matt is a senior in high school. And what this means is he actually almost has enough credits to graduate already, but what he's doing, because he doesn't need to be in school all day. What his school has is an internship program. So he has to go to school during, the morning, like until noon, but then afternoon, he goes to a job. And he already had a job lined up, back before his mom died, but because he started school late, his spot went to somebody else. So that person got the job that Matt had lined up at a bank. And now what Matt does, kind of his first day back is, afternoon, he leaves school and he thinks, okay, well, I need to find another job. Well, hey, I'm gonna go to my favorite restaurant and see if they'll hire me. So he goes to his favorite restaurant, which is called the Cluck Bucket. Think like, it's like Popeyes basically, but it's like a local place. And, he goes in and he talks to a woman at the counter, who says, he just asked for a job application. She gives him one. And Matt goes and sits down at a table, starts to fill out the job application. And as he's doing this, like he's just barely started, when this old man named Mr. Ray comes in. And Mr. Ray comes into the restaurant, sees Matt, and says, Matt, oh hi, how are you? And Matt says, hi, Mr. Ray, I'm okay. Like, it's a little bit awkward. Like, he can't really say that it's good to see Mr. Ray, because the last time Matt saw Mr. Ray was at his mom's funeral, because Mr. Ray runs, like, the neighborhood funeral home. So, Mr. Ray looks at Matt, sees the job application, and says, oh, are you applying for a job here? And Matt says, yeah, I am actually. And it's as they're talking, what happens is a kid runs in from outside. This is a girl, maybe like 9 or 10 years old. Opens the door and hurries, like she's really running for the restroom, but she doesn't make it, and she throws up all over the floor. And Matt sees this, and he has to look away right away. Like, he's one of those people, I feel this way too, where I can't really handle seeing somebody throw up. I don't want to see, because then I might throw up. So he's just, no, I'm just gonna look away. And then, again, Mr. Ray is still standing by Matt, and he's like, as somebody from the restaurant comes to clean it up with the sawdust stuff, Mr. Ray says, Matt, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but if you work here, you're gonna have to deal with this stuff sometimes. And Matt's like, yeah, that seems not great. But at this point, Mr. Ray says, well, hey, if you need a job, why don't you come work for me? Well, again, Matt's not so sure about that. He's like, Mr. Ray, I don't know, this might sound weird to say, but I won't have to touch dead bodies, will I? And Mr. Ray kind of laughs, no, you won't have to touch any dead bodies, I promise. If you're working at the funeral home for me, you would be somebody who's setting up chairs before a memorial service. You're gonna pass out programs, help serve food. That's why I'm here right now. I'm picking up some food, for a luncheon that we're having later today, after a funeral. So Matt says, okay, that sounds fine. Yeah, I can do that stuff, sure. So the next day, what Matt does to prepare for work, he puts on his only black suit. This is the black suit he wore to his mom's funeral. But he puts it on, and this is because he knows, okay, I have to go to a funeral after work. That's my job now. And he goes to school, and right away, Matt's best friend, Chris, is like, okay, you told me to treat you normal after all this. You don't like people being all sad at you, and, they know about your mom and they're acting weird, and I know you hate that. But what's with the suit? This is not normal. It's hard for me to treat you normal right now. And Matt explains, oh yeah, I actually, I got a job at the funeral home. That's where I'm gonna go after school today. And Chris is like, okay, do you have to touch dead people? And at first Matt's like, yes, I do. I do have to touch dead people. Like, trying to touch Chris. And Chris is like, stop. And Matt's like, no, I'm kidding. No. Mr. A says it's just gonna be like normal stuff, like helping set things up and like, it's not gonna be weird. I don't think, but we'll see. So Matt's very first day of work, he does have to do one thing that he's not super comfortable with, and that is he has to be a pallbearer. Now, this is one of the people who carries the casket at a funeral. And of course, Matt is, like, he has the worry that I think any of us would, which is, what if I drop the casket? No, I can't. I can't even, I don't even want to imagine it. But, there's going to be other people. It's like, I think you typically have like 6 people holding a casket. So he's going to be one of 6 people. And the problem, like the reason they're missing a pallbearer that day, is that Mr. Ray's youngest brother isn't there. And this guy, he kind of, like, he's not always super reliable. What Matt worries, though, is he's seen his dad hanging out with Mr. Ray's younger brother. And the thing about Matt's dad is he kind of drinks too much. Like, for a long time, he had it under control, but ever since Matt's mom died, he's really been having a hard time. Like, he's struggling and he's just drinking a lot, and Matt doesn't really know what to do. Like, his mom taught him to cook, and so he can, like, okay, after work I can come home and make sure, like, dad has something to eat. Like, he works as, like, a contractor, he does, like, construction work, but he hasn't been working lately, and so Matt is just, like, super worried about it. And, I mean, this gets worse when one night, I believe what happens is Mr. Ray actually comes to Matt's home. Like, Matt's waiting for his dad to get home, and he's like, I wonder where dad is. Well, Mr. Ray comes and explains, okay, so Matt, here's what's going on. Your father, what happened, he was crossing the street and a cab hit him. So he's in the hospital. He's got like a broken leg. He's got several broken bones. He's hurt pretty badly. So we got to go to the hospital and go see him. So Mr. Ray takes Matt to the hospital. And all Matt can think is, oh no, mom just died. Am I going to lose dad too? But no, his dad, like, he's not okay. He's going to be in the hospital for a while and have to do like physical therapy and all this stuff. But in a way, like, Matt doesn't want to think it, but in a way he's relieved because he's like, okay, at least this way I know where dad is. Like, I know he's not out somewhere like getting super drunk and like, he's not going to drink himself to death while he's in the hospital. So, okay, like, at least for now I can kind of relax about this one thing. Also though, in this time, Matt goes to one funeral and then he goes to another, and it's for work, but Matt is surprised to find that he doesn't hate it. Like, he doesn't hate going to funerals. And what he discovers is it's easier for him to be around people who have just lost a loved one. I mean, because he just lost a loved one too. Like, he doesn't have to pretend. Like, he doesn't have to be like he is at school where he's just like, doing homework and like acting like everything's fine, and everything's not fine. But at a funeral, I mean, he's looking at these people, crying and breaking down, like, they've lost loved ones. And so, I mean, it's not fun exactly, but it's like reality is confirming the way that Matt feels. Like, he's in a place where it's like, yeah, I feel this way too, and I don't have to like pretend to be normal here. But at one of these funerals, what happens one day is Matt sees a familiar face. And the person he sees at this funeral is the girl from the Cluck Bucket who gave him the job application like weeks ago. And this girl's name is Lovey, and this is her grandmother's funeral. And, she talks about, she loved her grandmother, what a great lady she was, she encouraged me to like pursue photography, and I loved her a whole lot. And, after my mom died, she raised me. She was just such an important person in my life. Now, Matt really thinks this girl is super cool. I mean, he's only ever like talked to her once before, and I mean, they talk at the funeral lunch. Like, they for the luncheon after the funeral, like, he kind of sits with her, and he feels a little bit awkward about this. Like, okay, normally he wouldn't, but he wants to talk to Lovey. So after this, Matt is in the awkward position of wanting to ask this girl out. But of course, you can't say, hey, I had a great time at your grandma's funeral. Would you like to go on a date? Like, you can't do that, obviously. So, eventually though, I mean, Matt figures it out. Like, he says something less bad than that. And he and Lovey decide that they are going to go out on a date. And what they do is their first, like, kind of official date is on Thanksgiving. And what they do is they go and volunteer at the homeless shelter that Lovey's grandma, like, spent a lot of time volunteering at. So it's, like, kind of unconventional. Like, their second date is, like, the botanical gardens, which, again, is, like, maybe not something you would do right away if you're dating somebody, but, like, Matt and Lovey, they both have a great time. So I really love this book because it's just a wonderful novel about losing people and how you could start to recover from that. But it's also about meeting new people and how, you know, when they come into your life, you might not be expecting exactly what that friendship or relationship will look like, but it can really, you know, change your life for the better. So check it out. And this book, I think it's available, all of Jason Reynolds' books actually are available through Access 360. There's also some on Libby. And I know that the Spider-Man novel is on Hoopla. Certainly, I think as an ebook, but maybe as an audiobook also. So, thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon.